What's going on, all Knicked Up family? It's game time snitches. Welcome to the All Knicked Up podcast. Hopefully everybody's having a good week so far. Was it Wednesday, Thursday? Where we are? Wednesday, I believe we are. Must be because there's another Knick game coming on, and usually we run in overtime during these times, so it's hopefully not tonight. But we're going to do a little bit early tonight. Try to get a little ahead of the schedule. The Knicks are facing the Utah Jazz, so trying to get a little bit ahead of that and just chop it up a little bit about the progress of the Knicks as we sit here today. I forgot what our record is. I think we might be 13-9 or something like that. Well, we'll get into a little bit of the Knicks business and see what's good. Of course, you know we don't do this. Well, I don't do it solo, but tonight I am running point guard. So I'll say this, don't be fooled by the name on the back of the jersey. We do play defense up in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my boy from upstate. He goes by the name Upstate Joe. We bring him up into the stage. Hello, my brother. What's going on, Joe?
What's going on, buddy? I am living fat.
Now, is that PHAT?
No, that's with an F, man. That's with an F. I am in like holiday mode, eating whatever I want.
Nice.
I am in like slob mode. I'm gonna have to have like an intervention or something after the holidays. But I'm enjoying living fat.
Good. Right, good. I mean, we all need these Zion moments. You know, we all relate to, being
at least I'm not at stripper buffet.
Yeah, we like knowing that the chefs want us to come in too and eat the tables out. I can relate, Zion. I'm not mad at you, bro. I'm not mad at you whatsoever. I mean, food is good. I mean, we cannot lie about that. How's your heat situation? Hopefully you're warm.
It's going good, man. I got no complaints. How you been?
I don't complain. I got no rabbi. I tell people that all the time, so I just keep nosing. No sense in taking breaks now and wanting sympathy cards. That's for Hallmark. We don't do that around here. So, as we know, our usually who's running point guard here is Eric. Eric's a little bit under the weather, so we do wish him well tonight.
Definitely.
He's giving a watchful eye to see how good of a job. I'm like the backup point guard here. He wants to be a starter. He's got the little Stephon Marbury thing, and maybe I'm Rod Strickland. I don't know. Just stay off the Vaseline is all I tell Eric. Do not be making that inedible. We don't play those games around here. But overall, time to get into what we do best, and that is cry about the Knicks. Usually requires some Kleenexes. This is part of the life we live around here in the orange and blue land. But needless to say, we're not in the worst situation. We're not in the best situation. But I think I said tonight we'll start off a little bit talking about somebody who's a non-star on the Knicks, but I think he needs to have a little bit of attention drawn to him, and that is a guy I tended to call Quentin Keyshawn Grimes. That's who we're going to start calling this brother. He said, give me the damn ball.
Yep.
Let's just say maybe he knew what was better for himself than the actual coach and the rest of us who were sitting here worried about Quentin Grimes. Well, lo and behold, what we've seen from him in the last several games is being, pushed to the bench. And actually, from what I'm understanding, it's something that he was happy to go to. So I don't know what that tells about the starting lineup of the Knicks, that someone's willing to go out of the starting lineup in order to feel like they can prosper better. But we've seen Quentin Grimes come off the bench, and he's been the Grimes that we've been waiting to see, or who we thought we would see this year. He seems very locked in, definitely dialed in from the outside, showing the things that we think that he's special at doing. So, it's a beautiful thing for the Knicks. They kind of lose a little bit of their punch in the starting lineup defensively. We're not the most sizable team, and nor are we the most attentive as far as with our defense. But we know Quentin Grimes kind of brings that toughness and that what is supposed to have been the 3D ability of him. But we know that we've seen the defense is just the 3 that's been lacking. So my question to you is, what do you feel about this move, putting Grimes on the bench that has turned productive, but is it for the betterment of the whole Knicks team that he's on the bench as opposed to being in the starting lineup.
Absolutely. We've been talking a lot about this, and I even mentioned last week they need to move him to the bench.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Get him going. He's showing the tools that you, I, and Eric have all talked about and all kind of drooled over, thinking that this kid has game. He is lost in this offense. He can do more. He can do more. And you're seeing those opportunities come up and him taking advantage of it. We had talked about him needing to be more assertive on the court, and it turns out he was assertive, but off the court. But that still kind of led to the right result. I'm surprised Tibbs, as stubborn as he is, made the move right after those comments, relatively speaking. All I could say is it was probably something that was already on his mind, because he's not a reactionary, Tibbs. He's not going to react to somebody talking to the media. That's just not how the man's built.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving what I see out of Grimes. I think him and Quickly in the backcourt in that second team could make the bench and that second rotation even more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing right now is, our new starting shooting guard is falling into the same trap that our old shooting guard was.
Mm-hmm.
Dante's a hell of a player, and he's not a minus defender either. Kid can defend.
Yep,
so
exactly.
I don't know if there's that much a drop off in the defense as there is improvement with the scoring punch off of the bench. So I think it's going to be a plus move altogether. But it raises a larger topic here. What's wrong with our offense? Why are we playing 3-on-5?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand people tend to run their offense through their best players and stuff like that. Yeah, there are guys that are usually standing around. But the three guys that we have on offense, albeit very talented, very productive, having good years, are not the kind of players that you sacrifice the rest of your starting five for. Absolutely. So what's wrong with the offense that your shooting guard, which is historically a scoring position?
Yeah.
I grew up with basketball like you grew up with basketball. I played for high school and a little bit at the college level. And that is a position you expect production out of.
Absolutely.
But dumping it down in the corner, I'm just hoping that Dante is mature enough professionally to carve himself a role out of an offense that is not going to be run through him. That's something I think Grimes had a problem with.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a plus move. We're going to have to start winning with offense because we're not going to be winning with defense for a couple of months.
Oh, no.
And then we're going to be dealing with Mitch's conditioning and getting Mitch back conditioning-wise and not playing 18 minutes a night because he's huffing and puffing up and down the court. We're going to have to figure out how to be a more effective offense if we're going to keep pace with what is a brutal stretch coming up.
Absolutely.
So they need to figure out how to squeeze as much offense as they can out of our starting five and not, having Dante play 18 minutes and taking 2 shots. So I think Grimes off the bench. And the one thing I noticed more than anything is the rhythm shooting. And this is something we both talked about, you and I, about you can't just put a shooter out there and have him take 1 or 2 shots or, a shot a quarter and expect him to get into rhythm. But you're seeing a player now that is getting into rhythm and he's hitting shots. He's hitting shots at a very good clip. He's also, again, hitting the deck with the ball, looking to distribute off of him, doing all of the things that we know he can do. So I'm hopeful, man. It's just, I think it's a good move for him. It's a good move for him as a professional, too, because, kids could talk about taking one for the team and doing what's right for the team, but having him work out of that role is going to cost him millions of dollars contract, and that is not lost on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine. You want to talk all of that stuff, but putting me in the corner is going to make cost me a lot of money, and I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. And I'm sorry, that's an incentive on the individual that is going to override, the incentive for the team. And I don't even know if the incentive for the team is correct. I don't even know if they're running the right offense or if that is really the best thing for the team.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my take on it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely, you've hit a lot of great points regarding that. Guys will take discounts when you're winning championships, and the Knicks are not definitely in that business right now. So
but not on the first contract. Not on
yeah,
the first.
yeah, and definitely not on the first one, because this is, well, by broke standards in the NBA. A guy who's picked at 25 and looking to try to get his one big deal or a couple big deals out of his career. This does not bode well for Grimes, as well as it didn't bode well for Obi. This is one of the reasons Obi asked for his exodus was, he has to, do what, not the Sprewell way, but he has to feed his family. Eventually, this is a business still. It's just not basketball. They start off maybe for the love of the game, but you learn early that this is about business. This is not about how much you love playing basketball or any sport. So it's a big business. Grimes going to the bench, I have no problem with that move. In fact, I would have thought that he was more of a bench player, given who we have in our starting lineup. There's a lot, I try to get the Kobe quote right. He said there's no I in team, but there's an I in win or whatever. But, the Knicks have a lot of I players, a lot of players that are into isolation. They don't have the best vision on the floor. They're very determined scorers. They're wired to score, not to be distributors. And you're not going to see a lot of hockey assists on the Knicks. You're not going to see a lot of sharing of the ball. You don't see a lot of creativity with the offense.
No.
There's not a lot of movement, off ball. It's a lot of standing and waiting and my turn, your turn. I don't know of one player on the Knicks outside of maybe a little bit. You see RJ try to get one of his players off, like a Mitchell Robinson. But you never see that ball, go to what we call the shooting guard, exactly what you said. By standing in this game for the longest time, you're there to shoot. That's your job. You're the scoring guard, I think what has happened is that there's a little blurred, obviously. John would love this. He likes to define roles of, the old school of, 5 players, 5 positions. You have a power forward, center, small forward, point guard, shooting guard. What we see now is more of a blend. Everybody wants to be offensive oriented. So you don't see guys literally staying in a defined role. Crazy enough about Tibbs and his way about going about business, what we've seen, he is a throwback coach. He's a throwback style. It would be great that if he saw that his offense needs to resemble back in the day too, where everybody was involved to a degree. You saw a guy like Grimes has a play run for him, or the offense is geared towards everybody touching the ball at least. What we see is a lot of heavy isolation, a lot of blinders. I was calling horse blinders by some of our players that, they see the basket and that's all they see. And which, hey, it's fine. Not everybody's a distributor,
Right.
There's not a lot of point guards or pure point guards anymore. So a lot of me in this game. And Grimes was suffering from it. He's standing there. Maybe a guy like Dante, who's already got his contract, a couple contracts, maybe he can be content with standing in the corner and playing this type of basketball. He has a ring, I think, with Milwaukee. I think he was injured, but he still has a ring. So
it's a better move for the locker room, definitely.
Yeah. So, it kind of gives a little bit like he maybe could take the punch, take the hit. We're not getting as many touches. But lo and behold, for the success of the Knicks, I do think you have to get a guy like Quentin Grimes acclimated. You have to get him started somewhere because I think you need him. This is not a great team where you can have those 1 to 2 players that are so dominant that you don't care too much about the remaining pieces having to be dominant. The Knicks have to do this as Voltron. They have to do it as a collective. Yeah. There's not one piece that's bigger or better than the entire whole, and that's what the Knicks need to have instituted, or you would think the coach would say, hey, look, we're not a one-man show here. We're not a two-man show. We have to do it in a group setting. And a guy like Grimes is just as important as a guy like Brunson, in my opinion. Brunson might be, the engine, but who's in the car? You still got to have the body of the car on 4 tires in order for this to be anywhere near the success that they want to achieve, which is I'm hoping that they would love to be back in the second round And eventually, I mean, we all won a championship. I'm not going to get that far ahead of ourselves, but the second round right now is the goal, and I don't think you get there by not playing or developing a Quentin Grimes, especially given injuries and sometimes the Heimlich ish things that happen with some of our players where they start choking in these pressure moments. You have to start seeing these guys develop into something, and Grimes has a great base. And it's good that he's getting a chance to kind of showcase it in that lineup.
I think also there's a potential for this situation to get worse if they do acquire a star player.
Yeah.
And you still have young talent on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
The funneling of the touches is going to get even worse.
Yes. And then you got a guy like Grimes, who's like I would say, he's the coach's dream. He's coming in, he's going to do everything a coach asks him to do. He's going to run through that wall. But, you got to reward those guys too. There's always the belief that you reward the big man back in the day. He's doing all the rebounding and the blocking shots and the boxing out. He's doing the dirty work. So what you have to do is make sure that you reward them with at least some touches on the other side of the floor or get them their buckets. At the end of the day, Grimes is a shooting guard. He's a scorer. He's not just a Frank Ntilikina who, is going to – well, Frank thought he was more than what they wanted to use him as. So, and Grimes is way more talented. So you would want to see Grimes develop into – his ceiling, and whatever his ceiling is, you want to see him reach that potential. He's a hardworking kid. I don't think that nobody questions that. They don't question his dedication to the game. It's just as dedicated as he is to the game, the coaches and the players need to respect that and be just as dedicated to him in that lineup to make sure that kid is eating. And they have not, unlike Zion, he's not going to the buffet. He's getting like a little lunchable snack, and they put it in his little brown paper bag, and it's like, well, here's these 2 shots. Hopefully you make them, and then the pressure is to make them, which I think is kind of crazy. His quote was basically he feels pressure to make shots so he doesn't get pulled. Right. I don't think no player who's playing that kind of effort on defense and losing, basically sacrificing his game, something that Tibbs always asks the players, don't worry about your stats, sacrifice for the game. But, nobody's, a scalded dog is going to yelp. So nobody's going to sit there the whole rest of his career and play that type of role. And I mean, Lou Dort gets shots. He was a defensive specialist. We don't think Quentin Grimes is a defensive specialist. We think he's a two-way talent. So you got to let him get his shots. So good move for Tibbs, acknowledging that and acknowledging that there was a need for obviously a change. And speaking of change, we're going to transition into something else that I've kind of noticed. Maybe you've noticed, but we're going to go into my man here. I won't call him the acronym I'll call him Randall tonight. Randall being bullish is what I titled this one as. What we've seen from Julius Randle over the last 10 games is Randall's been averaging 25 points, I think 9 rebounds, 5 assists. That's pretty much the average. But the thing that I've noticed the most about Randall in this season, even when he was kind of struggling in the beginning, is that we saw him not playing the traditional Randall-ish kind of MIP role that he's been used to playing here in New York, where we basically made him into a wing. He was the Dollar Tree LeBron James. I guess that's what they were trying to make him into. And for me, when knowing we were signing Randall initially, I always thought that we were going to get the New Orleans version of Randall, which I thought was very productive. I thought that guy was the guy that when we were signing that we needed here in New York as the consolation prize per se. When looking at how he played in New Orleans, it was always down low, the grit and the grime, playing in the paint. I would say when we see him playing now, he's in the alleys playing amongst the trees. He's dancing amongst the trees, which that's befitting of his game because it's all power with him. One-on-one, you can't guard the guy when he's that low down underneath in the paint. He's as strong as a bull, strong as an ox, whichever, comparison you want to make. And what we're seeing is teams are having difficult times. As we watched him versus Toronto, he was an absolute man amongst boys. One of the best defenders in the game supposedly is OG, and he ate his lunch. He just completely ate his lunch. There was no answer for him. We saw the vicious dunk that he tried to, that erupted in the Garden. We saw a different, seemingly mindset. We also see him playing a little bit more at ease too, with his responsibilities and not trying to work off the wing position and trying to get his shot. We're seeing more easier shots. So for me, we're getting this version of Randall, the New Orleans version of Randall, which I like. I like seeing this from him. I think it makes his game less complex. It's get the ball, go into the hole, and try to get a bucket and an N1 or get fouled, go to the line, make your shots, and get teams in foul trouble. We saw a little bit even with Giannis. When Giannis was trying to guard him one-on-one in Milwaukee, Randall was getting him in foul trouble because that type of game, he can have that kind of impact when he's focused and locked in on doing the things he's great at as opposed to doing things that he's kind of mediocre at. So I don't know if you've noticed, but that's one of the things I've noticed about Randall and the recent success. Hopefully it's something the Knicks can build off. I don't know if it's going to impact overall winning for the Knicks, but I think him being in this spot is a great spot. What do you think about what you're seeing from him over the last 10 games?
I'm loving it. He's less reliant on the three, which is a good thing because he's not hitting them really on a consistent basis. He seems to have had some kind of paradigm shift in how he's approaching the game. I thought his play against Toronto was a thing of beauty. I loved how he attacked that game. I loved how he approached it. Now, granted, it was probably one of his best output games, but I see a different Julius. Mm-hmm. I don't see as many mental meltdowns. I don't see him arguing with the refs as much. I see him turning the page on stuff, which is all maturity, which is what every man has to go through in life. Yeah, professionally, you have to mature. Mm-hmm. You have to mature in your personal life, in your marriage, and these are the hills that we all climb as men.
Absolutely.
And I see it happening with him. I'm a Julius fan. I am. Yeah. I have been. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that he had the stones to come here and to take on the mantle that he had to take on, especially when we didn't have a Brunson. One thing Dolan said once, and it was when Amari signed all those years ago, was it takes guts to play where the lights shine brightest. Mm-hmm. And it is absolutely positively true. The man wants to be a Knick. He wants to represent. Mm-hmm. And I see a Randall that I am very excited about. I loved after the dunk the display of emotion, the letting it all out, and just the crowd reacting to it and the energy involved with that, and loved seeing that. And again, we need that version of Julius because we're tough with that version of Julius.
Absolutely.
He does things on the floor, or he's capable of doing things in a way that other players necessarily can't. I know that there's some crossover and some duplication with RJ and Randall's game, and you guys have mentioned it.
Yeah.
But when he is playing on this kind of level, he's doing things RJ can't do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And again, it seems like the three is more involved in his game. I think he's shooting 3 less threes a game this year.
I believe so too. Mm-hmm.
You have to have that involved in your repertoire just for it to be a threat to keep the defender on their toes. But I like that he's not shooting it as much. And he took the hard stick to OG Anunoby in that game. OG Anunoby is a solid,
absolutely
solid player and a strong player, and he just took him in the yard, man. He took him in the backyard, and yeah.
Down that little mud hole in them, little woodshed action, as they call it.
Exactly what I was thinking about. And we're going to need people firing in all cylinders. I mean, especially after the previous 2 games, which were frankly disappointing. I mean, let's be honest. Me calling that the Knicks are going to win the series with the season series with Boston, that's pretty much down the tubes. So we gotta step up, man. And I think that he's doing his part right now. I see, RJ turning the corner a little bit. Yeah. Thank God Brunson's injury did not
be more
than it was. because I was ready to hang Thibodeau on that
Oh
whole
man.
having
Oh,
him involved in the last 20 seconds of that game. And then to turn around afterwards, I know this is probably another topic we're going to go on, but I have to say his response to that,
oh,
if he regretted it, he's like, nope.
yeah.
That's just arrogance.
Oh,
Flat out, man. That is like, do not question me. I do not make mistakes. So yeah, it's beautiful seeing Randall play the game, and I think that the way that whole Toronto game, even though it was close, and it was close, honestly, for the same reason that I remember you saying that the Nets would give us problems. They're long, and long teams give us trouble, especially with Mitch out. Long teams give us trouble. So it was a good win. We'll see what they do today in Utah.
yes, yes. Well, we'll transition a little bit into that when we talk about a guy like Tom Thibodeau. I'm gonna pedal this one into 20 seconds or less. We've seen this picture before. We've watched RJ, and I think it was Portland. I think it was left in the game, 20 seconds left, gets an ankle injury. Bam, here we are again. He's laid up over a meaningless stretch of game where it's out of reach. There's no way you're going to win these games. And then to hear, I'm watching the Brunson and seeing him. He didn't look great from the last game. You can see he's still a little hobbled from the injury, but needless to say, he is still playing, thank goodness. But you could see a little bit of the effects on his movement, his shifting back and forth, his lateral movement, etc. But, it does beg the question, when you see a coach respond in this manner. I mean, it's such a disconnect from not only his players, but it's also a disconnect from just the overall evaluation of the game. I don't always know what he's looking at. I don't want to, question his acumen for the game. Obviously he's a 3-time, I think, coach of the year. He's got a ring as an assistant in Boston during that KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen year. So, I'm not going to question whether he's a seasoned coach. I think we've always wondered about the pivot of this person. We ask the question of, can you get out of your own way? And that's usually a thing about anyone. Can you get out of your own way? We talk about the maturity of men, beforehand. A lot of being a man is about changing, admitting faults, admitting that that's how you evolve. You evolve by knowing what your mistakes are. We get off a little bit of tangent here, but that's part of becoming or evolving into a man. Yeah. It's owning your mistakes, making different changes in the future so you don't repeat those mistakes. It's also having the ability to actually listen to critique and not see it as criticism, but more so as ways of actually honing you in. But, iron sharpens iron. I've also been a person that believes that two people in a room think alike, then one of you is useless. So you don't want to have yes people in your ear also, because what is that actually doing for you if everything you're hearing is a yes when the world is defiantly going to tell you no at some point?
I have to say there's like 4 genius scribbles in what you just said.
Thank you so much. It's just flutter. It's just the flutter in the brain. That's all. It comes out and I just start writing it. But
please keep going.
It's like these things that you look for change. That's part of the maturation and you actually elevating into being a man. Because I always tell people it's a work being a man. It's not like you just become a man. No. You're constantly working at these things, and like I said, it's the ability. Sometimes you need to have a female in your ear also, and use that vocal cord also, not just hear masculine thoughts as well. Yeah. But not trying to go on a whole diatribe about that. But the thing that we're watching is what happens when you're stubborn as a man and you refuse to have any input. You might have a level of success doing things your way. I have no problem with that. I'm stubborn in my ways about certain things. And I think everybody to a degree has a belief system in how they get results for themselves and what they believe can work for others as well. But with that being said, if you keep bumping your head into a tree, you're going to try to find, soon you're going to find you're not a damn Woody Woodpecker. Your beak's going to break and your head's going to hurt. So and it's not making the dent in the tree that you want. So I would ask the same thing of Tibbs as I would ask of anyone. Are you really getting the full results of what you want to get, doing it the way you're doing it? And if the answer is no, then that means you are not evolving as a person. I would say he's a blunt object. He has one way of killing someone. I watch too much ID channel, excuse me, but he's only going to hit you with the hammer. He's not sophisticated enough to be the serial killer that's probably going to not get the fingerprints on everything. That's how Tibbs is. He's going to leave a lot of evidence at the scene, and he just does not understand that you have to.
He's the Cain of coaching.
Yeah, exactly. We're watching him just keep hitting his head against a wall that is never going to move until he realizes that if you just simply open the door, that would give you an exit out of the house. You didn't have to break down the wall to get there. And I think we're watching him as a coach, and we're like, damn, dude, the game was out of reach. What lesson are you teaching your team? And let alone to the point where when the next game comes, they're not going to do it again because we've watched the same film happen from the team getting the same kind of results that are either working or not working through his coaching methods. So to think that you have a guy like Brunson, your most important player at this point in time, and you think that it's okay to keep him out there for 20 seconds in a game that is so far to reach that Plastic Man couldn't reach that way. I mean, if he stretched out his arms, I just don't know. I mean, for me, it's just very troubling to see that we've seen year after year after year after year. We've seen the success with him, but we've seen this mind-boggling issues with certain things that make no sense whatsoever, and him feeling not that he has to be accountable for any of it.
I think that you hit the nail on the head. You and I have been fans for basketball since what? We were kids watching the NBA.
Yes,
so we've seen Tibbs' entire career.
Yeah.
And there's always been a level of interest that I've had with Tibbs, and I've called many times for him to be our coach. And I remember the plot of movie number 1, The Chicago Bulls. And I remember the plot of movie number 2, The Minnesota Timberwolves, where he was also VP, which was not a good idea. And we're watching the same movie again in New York.
Yeah.
And I will stand my ground and say he was exactly the right coach that we needed at that time. With all the tomfoolery and jackassery that went on, he gave us exactly what he needed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Love the guy. It is time to move on. And I hate to say that because I have a certain amount of loyalty to him, but I'm seeing the third quarter of those movies turn into the fourth quarter of those movies that I've seen twice before.
Yeah.
And that is the inflexibility, the putting players in positions of danger for no goddamn good reason.
None.
No goddamn good reason. Nothing to be gained from that.
Nothing.
Not being able to learn from the Derrick Rose injury.
Of all people.
Now, he has a better bench, which is the only reason he's not marching these guys out at 38 minutes a night, because he has a better bench than he's ever had.
Yeah.
But still, the inflexibility, the inability to maximize his roster. And I'm not talking about the three main players. I'm talking about the fringe and getting what you need out of them. His defined roles for things, which we talked about extensively last week, which limit what you can get out of a player. Because people didn't get to Quentin Grimes didn't get to the NBA just being a defensive stopper.
No.
He didn't get drafted in the first round for just being a defensive stopper. There was more, and you were tossing that away.
Yeah.
So Rick Carlisle, great example, old school coach. Has the ability to look at his roster and go, that shit I was doing in Dallas ain't going to work here. I don't got Dirk. I don't got Jason Terry. I don't got any of those guys right now. What I got is a bunch of young pups that can run. So, you know what, we're going to go with that, and we're going to do that.
Yep.
And I'm going to figure that out. And he's doing that. And Indiana is on the rise.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with talent, but a lot of it also has to do with culture. culture and coaching
Mm-hmm.
and building around the strengths of your best player.
Exactly.
Supporting cast being an extension out of that. I think that there's the ugliness from the Tibbs story coming out, and I think the front office is watching, and I called this before the season ever began. I think this will be his last season here.
You did say that. Absolutely.
I think that he is not going to fulfill the rest of his contract. And I am okay with that. However, my concern is who's the next hire? Because you don't get rid of Thibodeau for the sake of getting rid of Thibodeau. Because believe it or not, we kind of got a good thing going here. It's not a great thing, but we got a good thing going here.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can't threaten that. You need somebody that can turn around and take a playing deck of cards and make a house out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, not just pulling out whatever card's there. So much as I love the guy, I'm starting to see the fourth quarter of the movies when the brilliant plan falls apart for the protagonist. And we've seen it before, Ty.
Yeah, no, we have. That's another thing that I'm bringing up, and we're going to still stay on him a little bit, is can we drop the drop coverage? You know, this is another thing where we're watching, you know, not only the 20-second issue, we're watching the same defensive philosophy that is, whether Eric brings this up all the time. You know, Eric's probably got a tattoo saying exactly the same thing all the time. He's like, yeah, you're saying that we don't hit a lot. They don't shoot. We defend the three, but it's the volume of the amount of threes that is being launched, and that percentage makes it just as evil as if you're giving up a lot of threes.
He's great at manipulating statistics for his benefit.
Yes, and he's put the smudge mark over this, you know, and called it art. That's basically what it is, you know, when basically this is a spot on your record that every time a team you hear religiously, the announcer say, this is a horrible three-point shooting team. Ha-ha! You know, I feel like I'm in the movie, what is the movie? Coming to America? The guys are, ha-ha! 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 But this team happens to be like,
funny, you bastard.
And you don't even know, you bastard. Where's the spoon? What a spoon? What a spoon? You know, and it's like, they're like, where the Knicks? Where the Knicks? Because we're going to launch every damn three-pointer we want to launch. And I always say they take the average guy and they turn him into the Splash Brothers. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to. When the Knicks, that corner three that Thibodeau preached about a couple of years ago, saying that he wants the Knicks to shoot more of those threes because it's the easiest three in the book. Yet we as a team collective over the last 3 years plus probably have given up that corner three, and we get torched by it. To the point now it's become even more of we become the butt of a joke, literally. We're giving tutorials on how to shoot the three from the corner and give up good passes, because right now you have a guy, and I know Al Horford has, you know, eaten and made a career basically off of shooting those three-point shots. So, yeah, I mean, he does that to every team, but he definitely does it to us quite often. And you see guys that are on Boston that were just like, you know, Derek White looking like a superstar. Not that he's not a solid player, but
he is a good player. But come on.
Well, come on. Tatum is having an okay game. Brown is out of the game, and he was having a meh game to begin with. And you don't think that there might be a problem that you're making superstars out of average players? You know, we sort of same thing. Devin Booker hit a great shot. Don't get me wrong, but you had the Phoenix Suns in there undermanned, and you were at full strength, and you ended up still losing by a three-point shot, which is what you're giving up the most, it seems, at the inopportune times. You know, Booker is going to get his bucket. I don't think he's the greatest to use, but there's a lot of guys that become Devin Booker playing against the Knicks due to the fact that I have no idea how in a three-point shooting league, this league is driven by the arc. And the arc is what, you know, this is Noah's Ark. The NBA is the arc. It's about the three-point shot. And I just find it so baffling, as much as I find him leaving a player in the game with 20 seconds left that's unreachable and happen to be one of your star talents. I find the same troubling fact that he watches film every game. This is all we hear about is a film. I go by with the film. I go by blah, blah, blah. And I'm more than sure he's a very well-read dude about the game of basketball. However, I'm just wondering where the glitch is in the matrix. You watch that film. You give up those kind of shots to average guys who become superstar snipers. And you have never thought that maybe protecting the middle is just not that damn important anymore as it was when you were playing in the 1950s. Because
it's not going anywhere either with Mitch out.
No, oh no.
It's not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to get more prevalent.
Yeah, okay. It's just the most baffling thing because clearly we come from the philosophy, obviously, and I get it to a degree. A high field goal percentage shot has always been at the rim. That's been given. And yeah, by the standard of basketball mentality, yeah, if you're going down as a 3-man break, it should end up to a layup and not a 3-point shot. However, we have guys that only want to practice is shooting threes, so they're very good at shooting threes.
The calculus is different in today's game. Yeah, the calculus is just different in today's game. There's a reason that the analytics heads love that shot.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's the shortest shot, and people are hitting it. So now you have to ask yourself, how important is the rim? And the rim is just not that damn important anymore because I don't know the last time I really even saw a guy win a shot too much on a layup. Mm-hmm. It's always a big bomb or a shot from distance nowadays because it's the most glorified. It's what they said, chicks love the long ball. That's how it was in baseball. Everything was about the home run shot. Whereas now, for the lack of words, the money shot now literally is the splash from outside. These guys are looking to rip their heart out with a big, long distance shot. You have guys shooting half-court shots. I mean, to try to win games. So we know where that shot, they practice, they work on it, and the NBA guys, no matter how much we might think they're failures, when we watch them and say they suck, they don't suck because they can hit any shot in that gym, whether it's your center, whether it's the guy or the 15th guy on the bench. You give them a good enough look, they're going to make those shots. So I'm always just so frustrated watching it because I'm like, why would you not? Why are you hedging in the paint? I can see you shout, but why are you hedging so deep and can't get back to recover?
Then he would turn around and cherry pick the appropriate statistic and how bad second chance points are going to hurt them.
Yeah.
If you don't get the defensive rebounding that you need.
Yeah.
Protecting the rim, all of those things. I understand the impact of offensive rebounding on offensive efficiency. That's where we get our money at.
Yeah.
But especially when you have a pretty good rebounding team, I don't – and when Mitch is on there, you have an outstanding rebounding team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have a rim protector. What are you doing, man? You already have all the pieces to tie that up in a knot and take care of business on that end.
Because for me, the understanding about rim protection is always
just jacking it up with impunity.
Yeah. Rim protection has always been for me. I mean, I don't know, maybe the term changed maybe these last 4 years, but it's usually you're not letting guys get to the rim and you're meeting the resistance at the rim. So what should happen is that you're running a guy off the 3-point line, forcing him to actually have to penetrate, and you're sending him towards the defense at the rim. So now you're saying, I'm not giving you that long distance shot. I'm running you off the 3-point line. Now I'm making you either do a couple things. You're either going to try to score at the rim, or now you're going to have to try to pass that ball out. And you're going to have to try to find an angle. So now you're looking for deflections and you're looking for blocks. Yeah. I don't understand why you would not run the 3 and say, I'm going to challenge you to create a shot off the bounce, and I'm challenging you to go up against these guys that got at the rim who's looking to stuff you like a Thanksgiving turkey, because we're not even trying to smell that smoke coming up in here. That's what Mitchell Robinson and a guy like Hartenstein, even a guy like Jericho Sims, with the kind of leaping ability.
That's hard. Quentin Rhymes with the steals when people are off the move. It doesn't make sense, Ty. It doesn't have to, because someone is stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
He has it in his head that this is working, but it's not understanding that you are defending your strength. You're already defending a strength. You are game planning around defending an area that you got covered, and you're leaving something open that is crushing you. And you can't understand that an adjustment needs to be made there. I love Tibbs, man. I do. He cracks me up. I back in the days when I did drink, I would love to go out and have a beer with the man.
Yeah. But he's a New Yorker. I mean, I don't dislike him.
He's great. He's great. Yeah. But we're in the fourth quarter of the movie. We're in the last act of the movie. We are plateauing. There is not going to be internal growth with this team. We have maximized that, barring some kind of a miraculous move, which I don't see on the horizon. All we have now is bad Tibbs. He's accomplished everything that he was brought in here to do. It's time to move on, man, because the rest of it is going to be like, the rest of that stale Chinese food that you left in the fridge too long. You were having your lo mein and it was real good. And then you have the lo mein a week later, and next thing you know, you have botulism, and you're in the hospital. Like right now, we got old lo mein.
It was good when it was good.
Yeah.
No, you are right. That we are definitely at that point in time, where you want to see the climax of the movie, and you're like, well, you know what? It's just gonna suck.
Yeah, this is where the master plan falls apart, like Wolf of Wall Street, where I'm building this empire, and oh crap, it fell apart.
Yeah.
This is the oh crap, it fell apart stage.
Yeah, nobody's banging on each other. Nobody's doing that.
I love that scene.
That scene is awesome.
That scene is
awesome. Movie's awesome. What? Let me tell you. He definitely.
Matthew McConaughey was great for that 5 minutes he was on that movie.
Oh man, the scene I always like was the trying to get home, like when he took the drugs and he takes the Quaaludes and they don't hit it until later. And I got a funny factual story here. I had this fraternity brother Frankie when I was at Brockport, and he was from Rocky Point, so we kind of clicked right away. Gotcha.
I met him after the fact, and he tried to recruit me into that. He was in Stratton Oakmont, and he worked hard, and he wanted to give me a job at Stratton Oakmont.
Oh, wow. That's insane. That's insane.
So he was in all of that stuff. But for some reason, I didn't do it, and I'm kind of glad I didn't.
Yeah. We've been asking for your autograph on some footage, but
taking Quaaludes all day on the phone.
That scene always, when I watch it, is just brilliant watching Leonardo do that. I like him as an actor anyway, but I was like, man, and I'm more than sure this is some actual accounts of probably what happened. I mean, it could be a little dramatized, obviously, but I'm like, if a 10% of that happened, that's just one of the most ridiculous things I could even think of. If 10% of that
looks like it did. Another great scene in that was when Jonah Hill was describing how he hooked up with his cousin and now he married his cousin. That whole conversation, and if they had a kid and it turned out retarded, he would drive it upstate to let it go free, set him free.
It was a good movie. That was definitely a good movie. I'm not mad at Wall Street. Very, very good. Oh man. Okay, let's see what we got here next. Well, we were talking about this one person. We were talking about rim protection, and let's talk about this dude. And, it's so funny. When this happened, I kind of thought about you because this is something that you have been talking about for a minute. You were talking about his run, his gait, and the injuries and the possibilities that you can never really trust in the fact that this guy coming along long term. So I can't remember what he injured in this particular case. But what we are seeing is that this is becoming like a perennial thing. He's a new spring flower that's always got some broken petals. So we're seeing Mitch.
It's all in the lower extremities.
Something you spoke of. You've been speaking of and preaching about the reliability. That there's going to come a time where you're going to need him, and basically to know doing of his own. You just might be dealing with a guy who may can only give you 50 games a season without suffering some sort of major blow that will remove him from the lineup. So we're looking at him being reevaluated in 8 to 10 weeks. So we don't even we can't even say that he's out 8 to 10 weeks. We're saying that he's had a surgery and now he's getting reevaluated 8 to 10 weeks. And being that this is the Knicks, we have no clue what really may have happened to him because they are not forthcoming about any injuries.
No.
All we know, he might have tore his ACL. We'll learn about that next year. Hopefully not, but I'm just saying in the same sense, when I heard about this, the first thing was an hit moment, fecal moment. I'm like, this is not good for the Knicks because literally of what they tend to actually do, how they utilize him and everything. I just think that it's going to be very rough moving forward because they rely so much on him as an intricate part with his rebounding and all the et ceteras. So when thinking about that, Mitch being out, what do you think his overall impact will be on this team as we are now heading to this road trip and being so reliant on him giving us second shots and being a defensive presence? Because as constituted, if he was continuing and was not injured, I think we could see him being a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So
most definitely.
Now, due to the minimum amount of games you have to play in an NBA season in order to be eligible for those accolades, we're looking at a window 8 to 10 weeks. You're talking 2 months, 3 months out, maybe.
Less time for him to get his conditioning back, which is always a struggle with him.
Always a struggle. I've seen watching the game sometimes for being in a point in his time where he's an NBA talent, 20, 20-something games in now. He's huffing and puffing, as Clyde would say. You see him a little gassed. I don't want to say he looked heavier, but he started, to me, looking, which I think is very strange given how much running up and down the court these guys do. And the fact that he is one of those people that exerts a lot of energy and, he plays his butt off. But you do see him kind of looking, and I don't know if this may have been one of the reasons leading to his lower extremity issues, but he was looking a little meaty. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but the humping and pushing, he might have looked a little bit heavier as the season is going on. I don't know what his diet is like. It could be a diet thing. He's still a young guy. He's maybe having, I don't know, he's got a kid. Maybe he has the baby weight. Sometimes that happens. You're eating, the man becomes pregnant and the woman becomes pregnant.
Eating with your wife.
Yeah. So, but the man just don't have a baby. He just has a stomach in the end. So, that might be a little bit of what may be going on. I don't know, but you spoke about his long-term effect, and I'll let you speak a little bit on what you're seeing now.
There's a lot to unpack with this situation. So I said something before the season, before we got started with this season, and that I thought we had seen him plateau, and quickly too.
Yeah.
And I wasn't right about that. I'm not always right. I'll openly admit when I'm wrong about stuff. I'm not infallible. The Mitch I saw this year was the best version of Mitch and better than I thought he could be. Yes, potential candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. And I started to get an understanding that I didn't have before of how truly crucial he is to this team.
Mm-hmm.
Our offensive efficiency is likely going to crater. Our defensive, presence without him is going to crater. You're going to need people to step up to do things they ordinarily don't do, and that's going to be the challenge. With Mitch, I always wondered about him being gassed because he has a very inefficient running style with a lot of extra movement, and that all requires energy. He's not very efficient in his movements.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch got a lot stronger. He just has. He's put on a lot of muscle.
Yep.
Now, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
That requires time in the weight room and time at the table eating. Now, my man is from Louisiana, which is not exactly known for it's responsible cooking patterns. So
Love that shit from Popeyes, but go on. I'm sorry.
you're wondering what he's putting in his body too.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just burning it off through playing. Because, yeah, he does look puffy and not just muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what his diet is like. Louisiana cooking. There's a reason why diabetes and coronary artery disease is so prevalent in Louisiana and Mississippi. It has a lot to do with the diet.
Yeah.
This is where you want a coach that can maximize what he's got in his hands, because he just lost. If he didn't lose his ace, he lost his king or queen.
Yes.
In his hand.
Yes.
They rely a lot on Mitch. I have a whole new respect for Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do, man? Because Hartenstein's a nice player, but he's not Mitch. Jericho Sims, watching him the other night, maybe good in short spurts, but he can't do the things Mitch does. He's 6'9". Yes, he's athletic, but he's 6'9". He's 6'11" with that funky.
With the sideshow bob going on.
He's got to do something about that, man. That's horrible. I'm sorry. He's a good-looking guy too. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, he's got a whole little chia thing going on.
Yeah, it looks like chia, man. It looks like chia. Like nothing for nothing. If it didn't get enough sunlight, it would start to grow mold.
Let me tell you, it's got a couple of petunias coming out of there or something. So.
But that's the thing right now. If Thibodeau could figure something out and make some adjustments, I'll be happy. I don't see that happening. I think we're going to – I don't want to be the negative guy, because I really work against being the negative Nick guy. And the negative Nick guys.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. But I'm kind of expecting us to get our ass handed to us over December. Unless they could figure something out. It's going to be hard without Mitch.
Well, that's funny you bring it up, because we're back to another square one here. I don't know if you've heard.
We got a backup power forward.
Yeah, we Taj times 3. He's back. He's back and back again. I think it's the third time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Taj Mahal is reopened in the garden. The most hilarious part about this is Craig West, brother in arms, one of the OGs of this podcast, had sent us in a thread. Taj Gibson was mentioned. So, all the jokes came out like, Well, lo and behold, the joke is on us this morning, because it's like he'll probably just bring in Taj. Well, he did bring in Taj. Yeah. Taj Gibson has signed a 1-year contract. They waived Dylan Wilder. He got waived, and Taj is brought in on a 1-year contract for the New York.
I know exactly why they signed him too.
What's that?
I know exactly why they signed him too.
Why you feel they signed him?
He's starting to lose the locker room.
Yeah, because it is about the guy who is most respected, which for the most part, any story you ever hear about Taj Gibson, you hear about Taj as the professional and the locker room presence. And he is the guy who kind of keeps everything. And that's funny you say that. That's an interesting theory. You're probably 100% right. Taj is the cooler in this particular case. He's going to come in and kind of settle down whatever. Guys do respect Taj Gibson a lot. And
he's also a high-level black belt, and he'll bust your ass if you get out of
Well, yeah, that when you start getting, black eyes and all this other stuff, we'll touch on that in a little bit too. But, hey, when somebody can throw some meat hooks in your eye, you kind of sit back and stop, running your mouth a little bit. As we said,
he's like a high-level karate black belt or something like that, I heard once.
And he's from Brooklyn, so he's really going to try to kick your ass. A Brooklyn black belt. I mean, come on. But, he brought in Taj. Taj Gibson did sign. There's no joke, people. This is not April Fool's. He did get signed for a 1-year contract. And, I'm gonna kind of endorse what you're saying here, because what we are hearing from the locker and, people like, when you hear a guy like Quentin Grimes speaks up and starts talking.
Yeah.
And everyone is talking about this being a complete mute. That he's a professional. He's not the mouthy person in the locker room. So initially we heard Josh Hart say something, and it was kind of.
Has also said things, and he's also said things to his trainer.
Yeah. Peanut has spoken. So we've gotten Peanut, we've gotten Josh Hart. Head looked like a peanut, but we had Peanut from him. And from what they were saying is, I think it was Fred Katz who mentioned that when Josh Hart said it, it was almost like ha ha ha. The team laughed it off, like it was joking. But then when you hear Q Grimes say it, they were like, well, damn, this dude doesn't say nothing at all. He doesn't. He comes in, he does his job, and he goes home. He's not the vocal person in practice. He's one of the more quieter players. The fact that he went on that diatribe was definitely deafening in a sense, because you wouldn't expect that guy to say anything. And for him to acknowledge that there was an issue, and that he wanted, and he was glad and welcome being put on the bench, as opposed to, like I said, I don't know any guy in the NBA who said he doesn't want to start.
And we're also getting Obi opening up on Thibodeau about his usage at the end of last season.
Well, last year, the implosion in the locker room. We're starting to hear once again, like you said, we're in the fourth quarter of this movie, and we know this is when it usually starts to unravel for him as a coach. He establishes the culture. He's brings about accountability and toughness. Not taking any games off. You're coming to play. That's the things I do respect about Tom Thibodeau. Yeah. You're going to play hard on the floor.
There is a lot to respect about him.
Yeah, absolutely. He is that. Like I said, it's the little. It's almost like Julius. Him and Julius are married in my sense of as players and coach, because you watch Julius and you got no complaints, but there's that one complaint, and that one complaint, even with Tom Thibodeau, kind of makes it sours you in a way of like, oh, I want to like you so much more.
Yeah.
And that's the
Julius has hope at least.
Well, he at least. I've always blamed Julius. I don't blame all of Julius's issues on Julius. I think he had Fizdale, Fizzy, who was, I don't know what the hell he was even doing while he was here.
He was collecting the bag.
I wanted him fired. And you can ask the guys that. He was like 12 games in, and I'm like, this dude got to go. And he thought I was nuts. Because everything's like extreme. He goes, he's like, you want to fire that guy? It's like, he needs to go. Like I said, look, this is not. I said, he don't know what the hell he's even doing. He thought I was crazy when I said it. I was like, dude, this dude is just a walking cliche. He's a trash coach. I was like, I'm just going to keep it a buck. He's a trash coach. And I was like, you're going to learn. He has to go.
All right, I gotta tell the Fizdale story really quick.
All right.
I remember a photograph I saw with the Knicks down 42 to the Bucks when Bobby Portis was still on our team. And Bobby Portis is walking to I guess he just hit a shot or something. And Fizdale's running over all happy, congratulating him, and they have the score next to it. And I'm like,
that's it.
This is like foot in the ass time, like foot up the ass, like colonoscopy kind of time.
Find the cavity.
Not they just hit down 42. Like, what are you doing, dude?
What are you doing? I lost. You know what it was for me? We all know Pat Riley. We know what Riley has been. Prior to just being a Knicks fan, I've always been a huge Magic Johnson fan. That's like my favorite basketball player, period.
There's a lot to like there.
Yeah, a lot to like about Magic. I just loved his game, his smile, and everything else. I mean, his personal life is personal life, but as a basketball person, I just was so enamored and loved his game. But part of that package was watching Pat Riley coach the Lakers those years, and we know Pat's accolades. We know the tough-mindedness. We know the accountability. We know who that dude is. He came to the Knicks as a coach. He put his stamp on his team. We know exactly everything he is. It's about friggin' accountability, no matter what. It's about accountability with your physical body, of being in shape, and about being dedicated to this game. He lives, sleeps, and eats
your conduct.
Yeah, this is who this dude. He's wired like a nut. That's what he is, basically. And you're not getting on that damn court unless you are adhering to the things that he believes in the most. What I didn't like about was when Fizdale, who's been, people talk about the Riley tree. Oh, he's from the Riley tree. The Riley tree is usually Van Gundy we talk about. We talk about Thibodeau. We know Spoelstra now. we hear about these guys, and then when Fizdale came and he did that whole talk about, oh, we got to get guys right. I'm like, dude, you can get right if everybody left. Literally, you never gonna get right because you were talking about defense, and then you were putting guys in that were getting blown by, and I was like, you gotta go. I was like, this dude. I had a Riley I compared him to, and John loves it, but I can't say it on this. It was another Riley, and she does films, and that's the Riley I said that he was, because he was not Pat Riley. I said he was, he was her. So
Fizdale was interviewed.
What's that?
Fizdale was interviewed after losing the job after the sting went away for a while, and he said, "I wanted them to love me."
See,
and that's the problem with leadership.
Yeah.
You cannot lead people and expect them to love you.
No, they got to be respectful.
You cannot be an effective leader that way.
They have to
be a great assistant coach. The assistant coach, the guys love the assistant coach. That's fine. You cannot love the head coach. I don't think you can. I mean, I think in the off season, people loved Riley. I don't think they loved him during the season, during playoffs. I don't think they loved him then.
No, there's a lot of guys
that loved Pop that way either. But,
part of being a leader is that you might have to piss in somebody's Slurpee.
Yeah.
And it's just what it is. You don't, can you be the villain and then go home and sleep and come in the morning and said, yeah, I was the villain because, and I'll be the villain again if it means, because you got to put the goal in mind ahead of your emotions and the emotions of others. And if you have to hold people accountable, and most people don't like to be held accountable. No. Most people want to do what the hell they
mean. I'm not fantastic. What do you mean?
You tell me I'm not number 10? I'm not top 10? No, you might not be. And I've always been a person that, I'll take a spoon of truth over a gallon of lie, because that's just how I never want to be something I'm not. So that's the thing about it. I can appreciate when people
the truth will make you better.
Yeah, it molds you.
Not easy to hear, but
I mean, it's your ears. You want to clog them, but sometimes you got to hear the bit of truth about stuff. But we in dealing with Fizdale, I look at him being not doing Julius any favors. No. Finding a player that you have who has the talents, but that don't mean you utilize them in the same way. We're going back to the beginning of what we started off talking about with Julius being bully ballish and et cetera, et cetera. You got to be able to identify who the players are and what their great talents are. And I think Fizdale was just there to blow smoke and be happy-go-lucky. So, but we're seeing Tibbs now, bringing in a guy like Taj, like you said. We might be reaching that point also where, players are looking around knowing their potential. And they're saying, you're not helping us max it.
No, and you're seeing the signs. The cracks are starting to show.
Yeah.
I think
we had Julius even complain. After that Atlanta series in the bubble year, he complained. He said that he did not like how Thibodeau's schemes were working. Mm-hmm. And that he thought the scheme should have been different, and that's why he was getting, I just didn't think he could think on the court, but I'm just saying he still blamed Thibodeau to a degree of where he was executing from. Because I found it interesting, too, that he was executing from the left wing. And I'm like, why the hell you got him executing from the left wing? It's like he won't see the floor that way because he doesn't – as a left-handed person, there's certain ways you don't want to be. I'm a left-handed, so I'm just saying there's certain places that, unless you're like ambidextrous and you can kind of function on both sides. And I watched him, I'm like, he's going to suffer from that side because I've never watched him play from that angle anyway. But, you heard him, like, once again, you heard RJ speak about him or leaving the press conference not to speak about him, but heard him on hot mic speaking about him on the floor with Manuel quickly. So, the armor is coming to a point. The question is, once again, who would you even bring in right at this point in juncture to replace him if there is even a candidate? I don't think it's Johnny Bryan who's the guy. I think
I think that's hype. I think Johnny.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of hype. I don't think you could bring in. I think you have to bring. Eric brought up Jason Kidd as a candidate. Yeah. I don't think Kenny Atkinson would even be the guy they bring in here. You're going to
Kenny Atkinson's for a rebuild.
Yeah, maybe Budenholzer, maybe. You might maybe
Yeah,
that's a name that you can maybe bring in and
I
kind
can
of
get behind
sell.
that.
You
My
know,
dream is Kid though, but Dallas would literally have to fall apart.
yeah, and then I don't see that happening. Not with what I watch Luka. Luka's a bad boy. Let me tell you.
He's like a basketball Frankenstein. Like they took parts off of like a lot of people and made a basketball monster out of him.
That dude, man, he's. I don't follow. I'm a real Nick fan. I don't follow too many players that are not Knicks. He's only one of two, and I might even unfollow the other one, which is Travelocity and the Cupo. I get tired of those damn moves he's doing. But
before he even came to the NBA,
mm-hmm.
I saw him starting in Real Madrid at 18 years old, and I said that kid is incredibly special because the Euros do not start 18-year-olds over grown men.
You got to earn.
They do not do that. They do not do that. If that kid is starting for the premier basketball team in Europe at 18 years old, he is special, like generational special.
We had this discussion, both Eric and I usually, we probably don't make good podcast tandems because we agree on everything just about, so that's not always good. So part of the thing is when Luka was being talked about, and we had someone else we were having that discussion with, and they were like, oh, he's not going to be. We're like, look, I don't know what you're smoking. That's going to be a bad dude when he gets to the NBA. I was like, do not. Because, a lot of times people get mixed up in the hue of the players, the hue, and then thinking that it's Euro, and then, oh, what is he going to do? I never liked the whole thing. Everybody compares everybody with a vanilla hue to Larry Bird. Oh, the next Larry Bird. How can he can be the next whoever he is. He don't got to be. He plays more like Jason Kidd and LeBron James, in my opinion. That's who he plays.
Not Larry Bird. I think the LBJ comparison is pretty good.
Yeah. The games are very similar.
Not a defender, but
yeah, he doesn't, he has the vision sort of like our kid has. That's the thing I look about with him, with Jason Kidd. That's why I think Jason Kidd and him are a good marriage. But yeah, we saw Luka. We're like, that dude's going to bust somebody's ass in the NBA. And he's been doing it ever since he came in. As long as he stays in shape, there's a problem in the NBA with him. No matter what. I mean, maybe you don't got to stay in shape no more. I mean, who knows the way it's going now. Jokic is not in the greatest shape, and he's probably the best basketball player in the NBA right now still.
In that draft, Dallas turned the 5th pick in the draft and one future first-round pick that wound up becoming our good friend that got moved over to the Lakers this year. The one Thibodeau wouldn't play. I'll leave him unnamed right now. What basically was Cam Reddish and Trae Young into a generational player. And as much boneheaded moves as that front office has made, that was the only one they had to get right.
Yeah.
And they got that right. They nailed that.
I was during that time when that draft, Eric and I was probably, I think we were in agreement with that. I was like, man, if the Knicks should try to move whatever hell. But the Knicks are never in position. Like now we're in a position where we have all these assets and could move up in the draft. But what we're doing, we're not moving up in the draft. We're doing this is a good segue. We're going to bring that right up now. This is what we're doing. We're not moving up in any draft anymore. We have the assets to actually move up in the draft, which, to be honest, the only one that would make sense is the Cooper Flag draft, which won't be this coming year. It'll be 2025.
Yeah.
That's a year that if you –
This draft is going to be a weak draft from what I've read.
Yeah, I mean, any draft with no offense to the young boy, Ronnie James, but if he's being touted as one of the better players, then that's not good. So, but, no slight against him. I just don't think – I think he's getting over on his name and not on his talents. But we hear from Brian Windhorst, when talking about the Knicks and any potential moves. The idea was that he said, well, maybe the Knicks will make a move, perhaps. However, what we've heard is the same narrative, the same story, the same punchline, whatever you want to call it with the Knicks, is that the Knicks are waiting for a star. And in fact, he emphatically said they're waiting for the perfect star to be available. Now, we've talked about this ad nauseum as a group. I know I've gone back and forth trying to figure out who the hell this guy is. This is what I want to know. Who the hell is this perfect star? I mean, I just look over the landscape of the NBA, and I like I said, I wish someone would tell me who. I wish the Knicks would hint at who. I mean, this is Doctor Who territory. Who in the hell is available that the Knicks are waiting for? And it's especially when you use the moniker of the perfect star. Whereas I look at who is out there that you want to maybe be disgruntled enough to say, enough is enough, trade me to the Knicks. Last week we talked about saying that there's no plan B, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, whatever, no plan B. I look at these fringe things that are available. We got Bogdanovic, whatever his name is in Detroit, not to hate to butcher his name. We got Hayward. We got DeRozan. We got these on-edge player types that if you may have added them to this existing squad, maybe you can catch a little lightning in a bottle, advance to maybe back to the second round, possibly the Eastern Conference Finals, if you can get the gelling right and maybe fix some of the defensive lapses we talk about. But say that's a 2-year window, because we're talking about the Knicks basically being hemmed for the luxury and for the salary cap. We won't be free up until maybe Fournier and Julius come off the books, where we would even be able to have the monies to go out and actually sign a star outright or any of the et ceteras. I just don't see where we as a team and as a league, and I think it's short of stars. I don't think there's those kind of stars out there anyway, let alone ones that are disgruntled. I'm just wondering who the hell this perfect star is.
I got a lot to say on this.
Yeah, I don't know. We see Embiid winning in 76ers, and they would never trade him to here. I can't see why would they ever trade. We don't have assets or equivalent swap to do with Philly. Even if we had a guy like Towns, I don't think they would trade us Embiid with Towns and draft capital. I don't see that happening. We got Karl Anthony Towns has been brought up 1,100,000 times. And why would that when Minnesota is playing great? They are one of the top teams in the Western Conference. You're going to also take on a guy that would probably make it like $40 million a year almost.
Karl Anthony Towns is going to be making 50 plus.
Okay. See, I gave him a discount. I gave him a coupon. See, that's the damn thing. So we're talking $50 million for him. So we're saying not those, not him. We see Giannis. Unless some craziness goes on in Milwaukee where he can't dictate who he fires and brings in, he's not going out of Milwaukee. So those are the top 3 tier. We know Jokic is not leaving Denver. That's another one. We know the guy we just talked about, Luka Doncic. There's no way in hell Dallas would ever trade him here, and you would have to wait till he decided to be a free agent, which we're talking about 3 years, 4 years down the line, and that's not happening. So I'm just of the mindset of who in the hell is this star we're waiting for? That we are looking for the perfect.
I got to let the genie out of the bottle here because my skin's been crawling for about
knock it out the box
with everything that's bubbling up here. Okay. There is no perfect star.
Exactly.
There is none. And I'm going to evaluate all of the names and why they are not the right fit. And then I'm going to tell you what I think the team should do.
Gotcha. Take us to school.
Karl Anthony Towns, very nice player, fits in our timeline. The contract is too much, and I don't believe in him. And they're also not going to trade him.
Yep.
And I went into all the reasons 2 weeks ago why they are not going to trade him. Joel Embiid's too old. To really be something that's worth putting all of those assets into. And you're dealing with Daryl Morey. That's an impossible deal. There will be a no lube type of encounter involved in that. There always is with him. I just don't even want to do business with him. And Joel Embiid is too old, and Eric has hit it on the head with him when he maybe a month ago went for all of the dangers that are attached to Joel Embiid. So I'm not going to rehash that. Again, all of our shows are available, folks. You can get into Eric's take on that. They're all chronicled. Zach LaVine, good player. would help the team. I don't believe in his health, and I don't believe in his contract.
Yeah.
The kid Zach LaVine a lot. He's a fine player. He's an impact player. I just see Amari Stoudemire again, and a big contract on top of it. Perish the thought of LeBron James deciding he wants to finally come to the Garden. That would be a mess.
Yes.
So there's no one out there, and who Donovan Mitchell. Love Donovan Mitchell. He's not a fit with the way this team is constructed. He's just not. And you're talking about a guy injecting him. We were talking about the dangers of acquiring a star player earlier. Picture him coming in and taking 27 shots a game and what that's going to do to this team. So I'm sorry, Donovan Mitchell, love the guy. No, thank you. And I'm very wary of people as they approach the 30-year and they depend on athleticism to be productive.
Yes.
I'm always wary of those players, a la LaVine. So we have a bunch of draft capital, which is great. My fear is that before I go into what we should do is that the wheels are going to start off and they do something freaking stupid.
Yeah.
They do a desperation move. I don't think this is our championship timeline, and I don't think the team that we have right now is what our championship team is going to be built around. What I think that this timeline and this team is about is restoring respectability of the franchise, which is desperately, desperately needed. I don't think that we're going to build a championship roster out of this team and what draft capital we have right now, parlaying that into a trade. There's too many loaded teams out there. There's too much to overcome to win a championship unless we play out of our mind and just like the Giants and the New York Giants in 2008 that beat a team that they should have never beaten.
Exactly.
Because they played out of their minds for a single game. It's harder to do over a 7-game series.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's happening now is important. What I think we need to do is hold on to the draft picks. Mm-hmm. And I need to – and if it's one thing, you look at all these players we didn't draft. Like you talk about, we've always had the 6th, 7th, 8th to in the draft. Mm-hmm. Look at some of the players we didn't draft. And they're the players that we want to sign now.
Yeah.
We want Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We want Donovan Mitchell. We want all these guys that we passed on. Instead, you have a capped-out team right now, although they're on reasonable contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Package those picks, move up maybe to 9, and start swinging on those players.
Yeah.
And see if you can get somebody in on a rookie contract that can ball out, replace the coach with somebody that can actually play younger players and get the most out of them, and start rolling the dice with those draft picks and hope that you hit on something. Yeah. Go out and spend the money and hire the best scouts in the game, and start rolling the dice with those draft picks and hoping you hit on them. Because you have enough talent right now. You hit on the right draft pick, even later in the lottery. As you know, there is value there. It's not like, you can't take a quarterback out of the top 3 and expect him to be an all-pro. There are players that wind up in that kind of mid-lottery range, and almost one of them every year pans out to be an all-star level player.
Absolutely.
So that is our best path to success. I don't think pulling in a Karl Anthony Towns or a Donovan Mitchell and beats a friggin' pipe dream. I'm sorry. All of these guys, I don't see a path to a championship that way. And we're seeing the difficulty of what it takes to actually make that one move and then think that we really need to make 2 moves with this roster.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get 2 stars in here.
Yeah.
And have enough pieces back to really play ball. And it still might not be good enough to beat Boston in a 7-game series. So, I don't know. I'm happy that we're winning games. I'm happy that we're watching playoff basketball. I think we're going to watch playoff basketball again this year. I don't see a path to making this team into a championship team in the window that it's currently operating. In the Brunson-Randall window. Maybe in RJ's window that he has a lot of time left. But I don't see it, Ty. I don't see a path here. I think that we can turn around and trade a draft pick for an impact player like a Bogdanovich, make
Mhm.
things interesting, start to scare some people. That's always good. But the most important thing I think we're going to do in this timeline is not win a championship. It's making this place a destination, making it less scary, making it less career suicide to come to the Knicks. So that one of those players one day down the line turns around and goes, "Yeah, I can win there. Let's do it."
I'm gonna.
And
I'm gonna. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
one final point: as much of a repair job as we've done in the last couple of years, we're still not viewed that way.
That's true. That's very true. That's very true. I'm gonna throw this one out here, and this is just not because I've heard anything. It was something that I brought up to the other thread, the admin thread with the other guys about this guy, and it's going to be a two-part. Whatchamacallit. I want to throw that name out there to you for a minute, and the reason I'm going to throw that name out is Chef being Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Hell's Kitchen. Could he be that disgruntled star that he's going to ask out? And the reason we're bringing him asking out is I'm going to throw a little ode to Fred right there, showing our man. Let me get these right. Let me get this right.
Speaking of jackassery.
Yeah, so we got that, and we're going to bring to this segment of the story, which I call the Draymond Mitch Green segment. Now, if somebody don't know who Mitch Green is.
Mitch Blood Green.
Yeah, the guy Mike Tyson might know Mitch Green very well, because if you didn't know who he was, he's the guy who was left with a whole steak on top of his eye because he messed with Iron Mike on the wrong day, and all you heard was a swollen iron Jerry curl juice. That's the only thing that was left. He was a stain in the middle of Manhattan. Mike leveled him. But needless to say, we have a guy who, much like Mike, the guy that Mike hit, Mitch Green was yapping his mouth and he got laid out, basically. We're talking a lot of crap and being intimidated, which brings us to this thing that is happening with Draymond Green. I mean, I almost don't want to talk about him or give him any highlights, but I just thought it was just so disturbing last night when watching that game. And I mean, obviously, we grew up in an era where it was a rough and rugged era. There was cocaine and punches being thrown everywhere in the NBA in the 80s. You had all kinds of violence. You had, we go to the point where, the game looks the way it does now because
you had violent point guards in the 80s.
Yeah, you had to, you really did have to file a police report, and they would deny the report like it never happened because you got mugged, you got punched, you had kicked, you had something broken, and you didn't let anybody know anything about it because they were going to attack it. But we bring to this point about Draymond Green, and it's just disturbing, and why I say it's disturbing is that I don't think that there's such thing as not having a place for physical presence in this game. Little toughness, I find no issues with that. I grew up on that type of basketball. It's the basketball I kind of like watching. It's probably what we all kind of fell in love with the game watching. So it's not the physicality of the game. It's just really the damn cheap shots. And it's the cheap shots in a game where there's no one who's going to retaliate in these games. So you're basically just going around free punching. It's like I would say he's the gooch. We never saw him, but Arnold came home every day crying about him because he took his lunch, and nobody ever saw who the gooch was. Mr. Drummond tried to go find him. Nobody ever saw the gooch. Well, this gooch is a live gooch, and nobody seems to want to step into the fray and punch back the gooch. I mean, you've seen
he picks and chooses
exactly
who he does that shit to.
Exactly.
A friend of mine, Paul Patrick, who's also a huge Knicks fan, I used to work with him in the emergency department at the hospital I work at, posted about this today, and I said one day he's going to do that to the wrong dude, and he's going to get his ass laid out. Like, I'd love to see him do that to Bobby Portis.
Oh yeah.
Remember Bobby Portis, who smacked up Nikola Mirotic
Yep.
for like talking smack to him, broke his
Yeah.
jaw up in practice. I'd love
Emergent
to see him pull that with Bobby Portis.
that, so.
You know, I'd love to see him do that, but he won't do that
You won't do it.
because he's kind of a coward. You know, again, yeah, smack around Jordan Poole. You know, that's fine. You know,
Weak juice.
Yeah.
You know, the NBA is not filled with any thugs. We know that. They're not filled with a bunch of tough guys. We know that. You know, these guys all hang out together. It's kumbaya. You know, everybody's eating biscuits together. It's not nowhere near the NBA we grew up with, the Pistons and Milwaukee Bucks and, you know, the Terry Cummings guys, you know, guys that were legit grown-ass men who would hand your ass to you. That's basically what it is. We know we don't have any punch-happy players. LeBron is the face of the league. We know he flops. You know, it's just there's nothing intimidating about him. You know, even a guy like Julius, who's probably very tough and, you know, a tough guy. I would think he's a tough guy. You know, he's kind of got a snarl against him. He's not friendly on the court. But we don't ever think Julius is going to go, you know, put somebody in a headlock or clothesline him. We just know that this era is an era of, I don't want to say softness, but it's more cuddle time. You know, everybody's cuddling and hugging each other after the games. There's no animosity. I don't even know if these guys even have a player that they hate. I don't think nobody hates each other like we grew up watching.
I think the closest thing I've seen was Dame Lillard and Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
They had a point where they had a thing going.
I agree with that. Russell brings that. Like, case in point, Draymond never slapped Russ.
No.
He would never run up on Russie because Russie's, you know, he's crazy. He's 730, as they say. He's the code for craziness. He's crazy. So you don't see him running up on that type of player.
No, he picks and chooses.
He's on the Euros or LeBron or, you know, and it's been basically the foreign players. I hate to say it. You've seen it even with Sabonis. We've seen it. We've seen now with Jurkic. We saw also with Steven Adams, which I think is shocking because he looks like
Steven Adams would eat his lunch if it came.
He looks like he would completely eat his lunch, and he'd need him. I don't know how many times. Obviously, nutmeg LeBron. I'm just looking back like the totality, and I mean, then we got Deadpool. He just completely destroyed Deadpool.
I'm assuming he deserved that.
I'm more than sure. Nobody came to Jordan Poole's defense, so I'm like, they probably wanted somebody to slap him, which is it happens in games. I mean, it happens probably in practice. It happens a little bit more. You know, these guys you know, they're pumped up on ego, a lot of testosterone in the locker room. I can see it happening. Pat Riley came in with a black eye one day and he claimed he ran into a wall. Probably ran into the player's fist. That's what happened.
No, so for my short basketball career, there were punches thrown.
They're always thrown. You got a bunch of you're juiced up on testosterone and ego. Come on, you know, and competitive nature. You're going to, you know, Michael Jordan punched out Steve Kerr. I mean, we all know the stories. I just think the thing with Draymond Green, it's not so much as that he's like the tough guy. It's like you're sneaking dudes, like you're doing cheap shots.
No.
I never see you get in somebody's face. And that I'm going to punch you. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. He horse-collared Gobert. He wasn't expecting it at all. He surprised him, horse-collared him, choked him, and dragged him. I don't find where that could ever be a manly thing if you're going to talk about being masculine. No. That's not a manly
Dylan Brooks is another one, man, with those nut shots.
Who's that?
Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, it's like, come on, y'all. This is like, it's like sneaky. I don't know if there's supposed to be a fair fight, but the fair is not when nobody's expecting you to do it, and then you say, "Oh, I'm seizing the moment, and I'm gonna snuff you." I always think that's such the most cowardice way, because a real man, in my opinion, you would go nose to nose, you know, mano a mano. Me and Eric was just talking. I think it was last week about. I don't know if it was on the pod talking about. I don't know what you remember. You'll say, but. We're talking about X-Men and Michael Jordan. You know, they were nose to nose. It was like, that's one of the most intense moments in basketball. those two, like I said, Jordan was crazy because X-Man was clearly crazy. He's right here with him, and that's how men operated at that point. To know that you found angles where guys won't see you coming, or you've been opportunistic, a guy on the ground, and you act like you're Mario Brothers, you're jumping on top of some bonus like he's a prick and a push is going to come out of it. I mean, damn. But the Urich thing was so egregious. I don't know what's worse, the punch or his excuse. Did you? I don't know if you heard his excuse.
I did.
It was just the most. I don't know. He needs a publicist because he should have never gave the excuse that he was trying to. He tries to sell calls by flailing his arms, and then he just so happens to pirouette and slap the shit out of somebody. This is what it is. I mean, that slap was better than the Dave Chappelle skit. That
looks like a Nintendo kung fu move.
Oh,
original Nintendo, like spinning around with the arm. And
I mean, just say you wanted to hit the damn guy. I mean, I would buy that more so than you talking about that you were trying to sell a call. It's the way. Look, he's a bad salesman. That's what I'm gonna tell you. If that was selling a call, he's the worst salesman in the NBA because you intentionally meant to hit him because there's no way. It was so staged. It was like, I'm going to turn, kapaya. It wasn't like you were flailing your arms because you were posting him up. If you might have, because he's too tall. If you're guarding this guy, Draymond's probably like 6'5", 6'6". He's not the biggest guy in the world. So maybe 6'7". Jokic is 7-footer. There's no way you believe that this guy is bodying you to the point where you have to use an elbow. That you have to reach up to actually nail it. So when you saw that,
there was no basketball move in that.
Not one.
No.
Not one.
Were you bringing up the possibility of Curry coming here before this?
Well, that was my point. Was I'm wondering, is he going to ask out at some point? We saw. I've been following a little bit of the Golden State team. Usually the games I kind of catch the late games, and there's some question marks. I'm not saying it for me saying that he could come to the Knicks. I know he always wanted to play for the Knicks. He wanted to be drafted here. That's well documented. But I'm wondering if this is a star that is disgruntled. We talk about stars that become disgruntled at some point in their careers and may ask for an out. The Knicks supposedly have. I mean, I've heard a little bit of rumors that that there's someone that's been mentioned that I don't know if it's him or if he's the guy that they may target and try to move as Golden State may try to do a rebuild because Klay Thompson right now looks like a shot player. He looks like he's done. And apparently they had a 2-year deal on the table for him last year.
48. 48.
Yeah, and they now pull that off the table. So he's probably gone. You see what Draymond has going on, clearly. With these he's doing a spin punch like he's Kerry Von Erich. I mean, I've never seen such crap in my life. Tornado punch. And then we move on to the fact that Andrew Wiggins has not ever come back to the guy. I mean, he went back to being Wiggins, literally. Yeah. He went back to being Minnesota Wiggins as opposed to the Golden State year he almost won the MVP. So he's had one great stretch with them, and now he's disappeared. There's no developing player on the bench. No. I mean, you got Moses Moody, who's decent.
Kuminga is decent.
Kuminga, yeah, he's an athlete. We're still trying to find his brain when he goes to the Wizard. That's not happening.
Gave up on Wiseman too soon.
Wiseman, they knee jerked on and gave him up. So you really have Steph Curry now sitting there with still probably a good 4 years of basketball, I would say, in him. I'm going to give him 4 years because his shot's never going to go bad. No. So we know he's going to always be a shooter.
It's like him age well.
Yeah, he's in great shape from what everybody says. They said the kind of condition he does in the offseason, guys cannot keep up with him. So I'm just wondering. I'm not saying for me as a person that would okay to trade, but I do wonder if this is his window in Golden State closing after this Draymond Green. Now I'm being indefinitely suspended. You're not competing for a title with any of the pieces you got there. I'm wondering if he's going to ask out at some point. If he's not going to ask, because Clay is up for his contract. This is his last year.
Yeah.
How do you improve that team?
I think I'd never really considered it before today, but now that you mention it, there is some sense to be made here. Clay is shot, yeah. Offering a player of what he's contributing to the franchise, 2 at 48 is a slap in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so they don't value him that much. Again, I know we're not supposed to curse on this show, but Draymond's an asshole, and he's cost him a lot with his behaviors over the year.
A lot.
He's just, you're dealing with Dennis Rodman only without the admirable qualities that Dennis Rodman had. You're dealing with the unpredictable and the crazy and all of that stuff. I know he has always wanted to play in the Garden. That is a trade that if your compensation was draft heavy and you could keep a lot of your pieces, if you could keep your core together and add him, then you're cooking with gas.
You got to look at it.
You can really seriously make a case that putting him and Brunson in the backcourt, if you can keep Randall, if you can keep Mitch, if you can keep RJ, and just give them a hella draft picks and make the contracts work somehow, or maybe you give up Randall to make up the money or something like that. And, well, Randall, we're not in the case that you can replace Randall right now, too. That's the hard thing.
Yeah,
Randall is kind of irreplaceable now that Obi's gone.
Yeah.
You could have slid Obi down and got away with him at power forward, and make Randall part of that deal. But how do you make the money work because he makes so much money? Golden State is not going to look to trade him because of who he is. That's the type of player they are going to want to keep and to retire as a Warrior for everything he's contributed. And Golden State historically has signed players like Draymond Green. Draymond Green got a contract he did not deserve because of who Draymond Green was to that franchise.
Exactly.
And I think Clay also got signed right after his ACL, which is a bad basketball move, but they did it because of who Clay was.
Clay was. So.
A certain amount to of ownership has a certain amount of loyalty to the players that got them what they got them, because GMs would not sign those contracts if it were up to GMs. And they were just making basketball decisions. So I don't know that they would be so free to let go of him. I don't know what we can give to get him. But if we could keep our core together and add him, I'd sign up for that, man. I'd sign up for that in a heartbeat.
I think that you have to
spacing and what the other players on the roster could do with that spacing. Talk about making Randall better, talking about making Brunson better, talking about making RJ better. Him sitting out on the 3-point line, defenses can never collapse on that team again.
You got a killer. He's a flat out killer. And to look at it, I mean, I don't know what it would take. Obviously, I mean, talking about Steph Curry, but
I'm hopping on the trading machine.
This draft, and maybe a guy like Emmanuel Quickley could be your reboot as a point guard. And figure out what you need to do after that. I'm talking about as far as Golden State. The monies have to match. That is the biggest question. I know Steph makes a lot of money.
They're going to want to draft capital because nobody in the timelines that we have right now, except for maybe RJ and Quickly, will fit that rebuild.
Yeah, that's about it. I'm just saying, when I saw him come up today and they were talking about just basically the plight of Golden State, he was one that came up when I was thinking. I said, think about it, this disgruntled player. That
would you give up RJ, Quickly, Ev, and 4 draft picks?
Probably.
Our draft picks. Not the Detroit pick. Not
those garbage anyway. I don't ever buy those anyway.
That's probably what it would look like. RJ, Quickly, Ev, 4 first rounders, our first rounders, unprotected.
I think given where we are as a franchise, I think you might have to do that deal.
I'd make that trade.
I think you have to make it because
Yeah.
you have a window of one of the greatest players ever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy so much as this whole idea that the backcourt is going to be short because, I mean, the Detroit Pistons was a short backcourt and they won a title. So I'm like,
you're gonna be short at the small forward though.
Yeah, the small forward.
You could draft players with the Dallas pick that you have.
Yeah,
you draft a small forward, and you could also for small periods of time you can have Grimes swing down to the 3. You can have DiVincenzo swing down to the 3. You can have Hart swing down to 3. Now, granted, that's not a long-term solution to any of that.
Yeah.
But
I think you have to think about that because I don't know. My trust in the Knicks moving forward has always been the Rocky thing because, like I said, I don't think that there's a plan B. I think the plan is a star talent. After that, you're looking at a really mixed window of are you building around RJ, Grimes, and Quickly, but you're not really signing Quickly. We don't know what you're doing with Quickly. So, we are in a middle ground area, which is not the best area to be in the NBA, which is what's the next move? Can you build and improve where you are? You only improve by having better talent and a mega talent. You need either a mega star or you need a mega drought that gets you to another star, which is to tank bad enough to get into the lottery.
He's also a mega star that solves a lot of problems that we have.
Yeah, Steph Curry is who wouldn't? I don't think there's nobody you wouldn't take or give up. I mean, then they give up the whole team. I mean, outside of Brunson, but I mean, just
Golden State would probably not take that trade either.
They wouldn't take it. I think you would have. They would have to know that they're doing Steph a favor and him wanting to come here and respecting him more than Portland respected Dame Lillard.
Portland should have done right by Dame. They made a good basketball decision, but they didn't make a good human decision.
Yeah, they should have sent him to Miami. I mean, I don't know why they didn't want Tyler Hero. I just thought that was one of the weirder things. But hey, I don't understand it. I mean, not that Tyler's a top 15 player. I'm just like that's not a bad start. I mean,
I think he was a bad fit on their roster with Shaden Sharp and Simmons and some of the other. They have a lot of options at the 2.
Well, they could have also traded him. They could have took the asset and moved him. They could have bumped him somewhere else and got more assets for him.
I think the league saw Miami do better without him on the roster.
That's true.
They don't tend to win with him, and he is getting
paid. The final without him. So that's a bad look. You're right. That's absolutely.
He fills up the box score, and it looks good from a distance. But they seem to play better without him.
Yeah, because he's just a 6-man. That's basically what he flourished as a 6-man. So, it's a lot of what you call it. Let's update the score here, Eric. Well, this is as per the other architect, Eric Helsman, said the Knicks were up 31-22 after 1. I guess they're moving into the second quarter. Let's see. I guess we kind of touched on everything. We've got our misery out. Talked about this team that we love to hate or hate to love. But I don't know. I mean, I think we're not bad, but we're not great, and I think we're in a middle ground here, and that's always going to be a little difficult.
I keep telling myself this is a good thing that's happening right now, and I have to remind myself because you always want to be, when are we winning a title?
Yeah, for me. That's all it's ever about right now.
I know, but that doesn't mean what's happening right now isn't important.
Yeah, I think exactly what we're going through. I think it's a need because we've been a baby's diaper after eating prunes.
Yeah,
just shitty for the longest time. Yeah. For lack of better words. And right now we have an established culture, at least back in play. We have some solid pieces. We're winning games. It's not like we're losing. We're not tuning in to lose every game like we have done in the past as fans. We tune in thinking that there's hope that we can be competitive. And I think the thing is that we have to just be so careful with our expectations and know that this team is this team and that we are not at the level that we wish to have, that we wish we are as fans, because we all are waiting, especially us who are aging day by day. we want to see a title more so than anything, and we've been either cheated out of in the past of having mishaps, bad shooting, whatever, and we've seen 2 final appearances if you're in our age bracket, and we've never come up with the chips. So I mean, now
You're talking about loaded diapers. I don't want to be wearing one by the time that we win the title.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want when it says depends. I'm not trying to go by the product. I'm saying it depends on when we win. I'm hoping that we depend that we win sooner than later. I mean, I just think that it would help if the front office gave us a message every once in a while and talked about what the plan is. I mean, we've all speculated about the plan.
The media policy is dog shit. It really is.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, I like our guys. I want to have at least a shot at being highly competitive as a team. At least in the next 2 or 3 years, I would love to see that. But like I said, the plan we don't know anything about.
No.
So when we talk about the perfect star, I'm just looking at the landscape. I don't see that anywhere, other than maybe this opportunity, like we talk about with Curry. And if it is there,
that has title potential.
Yep, you would have to try it because you can't wait on development. I've not seen one Knicks player that we've drafted that is developed into a championship caliber talent or has stayed here long enough to do it. We had KP, he had injuries, he was always injured, then he got shipped out. RJ was the next one in line, the highest draft pick since Ewan. We've waited. He's doing solid this year, but we know the inconsistencies have always been an issue. But we don't mistake RJ for being a superstar. We think of him as being maybe a possible third best player on your team, maybe 4th best, which is not bad. You drafted an NBA talent. It's great, but
he's 0 for 9 right now and 0 for 5 from 3.
Well, I'm not talking too good about you, RJ. That's a bad segue if you're 0 for 9 now. Goodness.
You're 0 for 5 from 3.
Yeah, here goes the misery. And we'll probably end up not doing too well in that. Is Lauri Markkanen playing? If he's playing, then that's not. He's playing.
He turned around his career nicely, man. They moved him to the bench. Yeah, 5 for 7, 3 for 5, 13 points in the first quarter.
That's me.
Didn't Phil have a hard on for Lauri Markkanen?
He wanted the story has always been that he wanted
to trade KP for him.
He wanted to trade KP for Lauri Markkanen, and then he wanted to trade KP also for Devin Booker. Yeah.
What it could have, should have done.
The one time they didn't want to listen to Phil. No, and I love KP. I was a big fan of it. Still am a fan. Wish he was here. But if you were going to trade him, you don't trade him for the 2 Snicker bars we got. You trade him for those guys. Our market is that's one. And you know what? Speaking of free agents, he is one coming up. Imagine the Knicks could add that talent to this existing core. That wouldn't be a bad pickup whatsoever.
He would fit nicely next to Mitch.
That'd be a nice touch. He's coming up on free agency. That's the one guy when I was looking over players, and his name came up because I've always been a fan. I like his game. I'm like, well, you want to add maybe a stud to him. Wow, look at this. Here we go. Well, the drop coverage has definitely not been dropped yet. You can't make it up.
That picture is perfect for him delivering that news.
Yeah,
the look on his face. Yeah. Utah is shooting 43% from 3.
Well, on that note, we're going to drop this coverage too.
Okay.
Well, boy, tell them where they can find you at or where you're hiding from, because after this game, who knows? We all might need to go in hiding for the next month until Santa delivers his coal to all of us Knicks fans, because this is going to be a rough ride from what I'm saying. Tell them where they can find you. Bro.
You can find me on X. You can find me at Upstate Joe AKU for all Knicked Up. You can also find me on the fan page. And again, if I have a take that you don't disagree with or you agree with, or you want to delve into it a little bit more and tell me how wrong I am, I invite that. Send me a message on the fan page, and we'll talk it out, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know me. You can find me at All Knicked Up fan page. You can also find me on the Expo Give It To You channel.
Excellent.
And we also have a Instagram page that.
Oh yeah.
So you can find us on IG now. Also, you can catch some of my game recaps. I'm not watching the game currently now, so I try to be as honest as possible about watching the game and giving detail on only what I've seen. So
you've been doing stellar work with that, by the way.
Thank you.
Really insightful takes.
Thank you. I try to be as fair as possible. I'm a fan of basketball before I'm ever a fan of just celebrating my team. So I like giving an honest perspective on what I see on the floor. Giving flowers and then giving coal where it's needed. So thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna try to continue to keep that going on. But like I said, we have our new announcement page I put up. With us 3 handsome men on it. Come check us out every Wednesday. The time obviously fluctuates depending on the time of games. So follow us on our Facebook page to kind of get a feel for when we're going to be on. I also like to just shout out, some of the members that are continuously talking. June Matthews, June Kerr, goodness gracious, Bob Turbish. Also shout out to Jonathan Clark. Put 2 on me. Follow him over there. Mr. LeBroninator is what I should call him. Also, wow, if I forgot you, I'm going to get back to you. Don't get me wrong. I know we usually have a few people that keep participating and sharing on the page and conversing with us, and we love you all for it. We're trying to grow it out. Share a friend, share with everybody. We're trying to grow it out, and we welcome everybody's opinion. We would love to get, if you feel like you want to come in and talk hoops with us and chop it up. We're more than welcome to come on as a guest. We don't bite, we do bark a little bit. So, don't be afraid. And much love, and go Knicks always. So on behalf of my boy upstate, my boy over here on the sneezing heck shoes, Eric Holtzman, get better. We'll do this again next Wednesday. Signing off. Peace to the fam. We out of here.